Level 1. The breakdown. The head gasket lets go at 62 miles an hour. White smoke fills the rear view mirror like the car is signaling its own surrender. You coast onto the shoulder, hazards on, hood up, and stand there while traffic screams past. 11 days after you handed a stranger $1,400 for this thing. A 1996 Civic, 218,000 miles. The seller shook your hand too hard, and now you know why. The tow costs $95 for 4 miles. The shop quote takes 10 minutes and lands like a verdict, $2,180. The mechanic doesn't even look up when he says the car isn't worth it. To him, it's arithmetic. To you, it's the only way you get to your warehouse shift, and the warehouse shift is the only way you make rent. And rent is due in, you check, 16 days. Checking account, $611.40. You count it twice. Counting doesn't change it. The bus to the warehouse takes an hour and 40 minutes. The Civic took 19. That's the whole argument. That night you type head gasket replacement Civic into a search bar, expecting to confirm it's impossible. Instead, you find a man in a garage in Ohio, doing the entire job across 40 minutes of shaky footage, reciting torque specs like scripture. You watch it 3 times, then you run the parts math. Gasket set, $89. Head bolts, $46. Machine shop to resurface the head, $75. Fluids, $52. A socket set from the discount tool store, $67. $329 in parts, against $2,180. The gap between those two numbers has a name. The name is labor. Nobody ever told you that you're allowed to keep it. Your neighbor Walt, 71, retired, coffee on the porch at 6 a.m. sharp, watches you roll the dead Civic into the driveway the next morning. He disappears into his garage and comes back with a torque wrench older than you. He doesn't offer to help. He unfolds a lawn chair. You do it, he says. I'll watch. For 4 days he watches. He points at things. He says, torque specs aren't suggestions. So many times you hear it in your sleep. When you cross-thread a bolt, he makes you back it out and start over, even though it probably would have held. Probably isn't a word he uses about engines. Day 4, dusk. You turn the key. It starts. It idles rough for 10 seconds, then smooths out, and you stand in the driveway with busted knuckles and coolant on your only good jeans, grinning at a $1,400 car like it's a miracle. Because it is one. Because you performed it. Walt takes his wrench back. Now you know, he says, and goes inside, and that's the whole ceremony. Monday, a coworker hears the story and asks if you do his brakes. You say yes before you know what to charge. Pads and rotors, $118 in parts. You ask for $80 on top, and he pays it like it's nothing, because the shop wanted $340, and to him, you're a discount. To you, it's a discovery. $80 for 90 minutes in a parking lot. The warehouse pays $15.50 an hour to be yelled at under fluorescent lights. You lie awake that night doing a new kind of math. The car isn't fixed, not really. Nothing with 218,000 miles is ever fixed, only postponed. But something else started in that driveway, and it will not idle rough, and it will not smooth out, and it will run for the rest of your life. Level 2. The meat. Wednesday nights, the far corner of a hardware store parking lot fills with cars the hardware store never asked for. You hear it before you see it, that layered rumble of 30 engines with 30 different opinions. The first night, you park the Civic at the edge and nobody looks at you. And you learn the first rule without anyone saying it out loud. Nobody here cares what you drive. They care what you did to it. The other rules come fast, unwritten, and absolute. You never touch another man's car. You never lean on one. You ask before you film. The loudest car is almost never the fastest, and the guy bragging about horsepower has usually never seen a dyno sheet. Respect isn't bought in this parking lot. It's bolted on, one weekend at a time. Tommy adopts you the second week. 34 years old, orange Supra at home on jack stands, where it has lived for 6 years while he tells everyone it's almost done. He knows everything. Torque curves, part numbers, which shops lie. He has finished nothing. Everybody here is either building a car or telling stories about one, he says, handing you a gas station coffee. Pick early. You pick building. You just pick wrong first, because level 2 has a tax, and the tax is the catalog. Cold air intake, $240. The internet swears it adds power. Physics disagrees. Coilovers $900. On a credit card you opened just for this at 26.99%, a number you don't really read. A catback exhaust $410. That makes the car sound 40 horsepower angrier while making it 0 horsepower faster. The minimum payment is $35 a month. You will still be paying for those coilovers 2 years after you have sold them. 8 months. $2,600 in parts on a $1,400 car. Then, at a red light, a bone stock V6 sedan with a child seat in the back walks away from you like you're parked. Tommy laughs so hard he has to sit down on his own bumper. "Congratulations," he says, wiping his eyes. "You bought $2,600 of looking fast." A few weeks later, somebody's gutted hatchback. Rust, mismatched panels, $6,000 total invested. Runs the pull of the year. And afterward, you watch a quiet man plug a laptop into it under a streetlight and change numbers on a screen. And the car becomes a different animal in real time. The quiet man charges $400 a session. He's booked 3 weeks out. He drives a minivan. You stand there doing the split in your head. $6,000 of parts, useless until a man with a $1,200 laptop tells them how to behave. The parts are the body. The tune is the soul. And the soul guy is the only one getting paid. You will think about that split for the rest of your life. Meanwhile, you find the junkyard. D runs the counter at the U-Pull lot, a mountain of a man who does crossword puzzles and misses nothing. You show up so many Sundays with your own tools and correct change that he starts letting you walk the rows 20 minutes before open. Half-price Wednesdays become your religion. An alternator is $210 new and $30 out of a wreck. If your hands know what they're doing, your hands are learning. Then one afternoon, D points his pen at a crashed Integra in row 6. Clean drivetrain, ruined shell. Yard's crushing it Friday, he says. $500 takes the whole thing. You borrow a trailer. You spend 6 weeks parting it out online after work. Engine, transmission, seats, headlights, down to the ashtray. $1,900 total in envelopes and payment pings. $500 in, $1,900 out. You read that math again and feel something click into place, cold and clean. Parts depreciate. Knowledge compounds. You stop buying shiny things. You start buying broken ones. Level 3. The list. The text comes from a number with no name saved, an address, a time, 1:40 a.m., and one word, industrial. There's a list in this city. 10 cars. Everyone knows the order and nobody has ever written it down. It lives in the head of a man they call Preach, who wears a long church coat at 2 in the morning, never races, never raises his voice, and holds every dollar of every bet in a zippered bank bag like a deacon passing the plate. By now, the Civic has earned its way here. You built it the level 3 way, the poor way, the smart way. A turbo pulled off a wrecked Volvo for $110 of D's mercy. An eBay manifold, $180, used injectors, a second-hand tuning cable for $250, and 4 months of forum threads at 2 a.m., teaching yourself fuel and spark because the $400 man doesn't take payment plans. You get it wrong once. One lean pull, one sound like a hammer dropped in a blender, and a $700 engine lesson that has you walking to work for 3 weeks with your hands in your pockets. You get it right the second time. 13.9 becomes 12.8. Your name goes on the list at number 9. The money is real, fast, and sideways. $200 a hand, window to window, negotiated in the dark. You learn that races are won before anyone launches. In the talk, the terms, who gets the hit. You learn what sandbagging is by donating $500 to a man who drove like a grandfather right up until the cash was counted. Some nights you clear $600. Some nights you fund a stranger's build. You keep a separate roll in the glove box and lie to yourself about which money is which. Everyone out here does. Preach holds side pots. Your balance in the bank bag floats around 1,000. It feels like a system. It feels almost safe. Then comes a Tuesday. A kid named Danny, 19, Silver Evo. His uncle co-signed, 3 weeks on the scene, takes a highway hit at 1 in the morning, gets loose at the top of 3rd gear, and finds a light pole at somewhere over 100. The sound is not like the movies. One flat slap, then nothing. And the scene shows you what it's really made of. 40 cars start at once. Everyone has warrants, points, uninsured builds, reasons. Tail lights scatter in every direction, and Danny's horn drones on and on in the dark. You stay. You and one other guy get the door open, You give a statement. You take a $340 citation for being there, and you take it again. Danny lives. The paramedic says it like good news, and it is. And it also isn't the whole sentence. There's a wheelchair now. There's a before and after in his mother's face at the hospital, where you are the only person from that entire roaring parking lot who shows up. Preach text 2 days later. Next address, next time. Your $1,100 is still in the bag. You read the message for a long time. Then you leave the money. $1,100 walking away. People pay far more than that for exits every day. They just don't get receipts. Tommy calls it a phase. Tommy stays. That one costs you something no number can hold. The last thing you do in that world is drive past the pole on a Sunday afternoon. Somebody has zip-tied flowers to it. They're already going brown. The list keeps your spot open for almost a month. Then it doesn't, and you become a story they tell. And the story is wrong, and you let it stay wrong. You have somewhere to be at 8 a.m. anyway. You bought a shirt with your name stitched on the chest. Level 4. The flat rate. The shop pays $18 an hour. And by the first Friday, you learn that an hour is a lie with paperwork. Flat rate. The book says a water pump pays 1.4 hours. Beat the book, you win. Fight rusted bolts for 3 hours on a 1.4 job. You still get 1.4, and the extra time evaporates like it never happened, because on paper it didn't. First week, 50 hours inside the building. 22 hours flagged, $396. The tech 2 bays down. Flag 61 hours in the same 5 days. Same building, triple the check. The difference isn't effort, it's knowing. You almost quit. Ray talks you out of it without ever saying the words. Ray runs the last bay. 61, half glasses, hands like tree roots. He diagnoses misfires by ear and finds vacuum leaks with an unlit cigarette held near the intake, while the young guys throw parts at problems and eat the comebacks, Ray tests. Parts changers guess. He tells you. First week, last week, every week. Mechanics prove. You become his shadow. He lets you. The tool truck comes on Fridays like an ice cream truck for adults, and you watch grown men finance $40,000 of chrome at truck loan rates, paying $120 a week to the smiling man forever. You go the other way. Estate sale. Saturday morning. A dead machinist rollaway box. $900, tools worn smooth by 40 years of a stranger's hands. His name is engraved on a brass plate on the lid. You leave the plate on. Some debts you inherit on purpose. You took this job over the dealership across town for $4 an hour less, and everyone said you were an idiot. And everyone was almost right. But this shop has something the dealership doesn't. Sitting under a tarp in the back bay like a sleeping animal. A dyno. It takes 5 months of staying late, sweeping up, and proving you're not a parts changer before Ray flips you the key one Tuesday night. Electricity's $40 an hour, he says. Break it, you own it. That's the entire contract. It never needs to be more. So your nights grow a second shift. You tune your own car until the graphs bore you. Then a coworker's truck, then a stranger's from an online post. $250, undercutting the $400 men, honest about being new. And he leaves with 31 more wheel horsepower and your phone number. Word of mouth doesn't walk. It sprints. Saturday becomes tuning day. 3 cars, $750, while your toolbox, 600 pounds of another man's life, sits closed. The laptop weighs 3 pounds. You start seeing the whole industry the way Ray sees an engine. The shop bills customers $145 an hour and pays you $18. The book time is the house edge. The tool truck is a casino on wheels. Everyone in the building is renting their hands to somebody else's math. Ray catches you doing that arithmetic on a parts invoice one day and reads your face like a scan tool. Go on then, he says, but do it right. Insurance, invoices, taxes. He taps the invoice twice. You already tried the fast money. Try the slow kind. You give 2 weeks notice with $3,900 saved, 11 tunes booked on a paper calendar, and an envelope in a sock drawer, labeled with one word in marker, dyno. On the last day, Ray shakes your hand at the bay door the way men do when the sentence is too big to say. You drive home doing 70 in the right lane, perfectly legal, heart going like a launch. Scared money, moving slow in the right direction. At last, level 5, the laptop. Your first Monday as a self-employed man. You wake at 5:40 out of habit and lie there realizing nobody is timing you. You get up anyway. The 11 bookings on the paper calendar are the only thing standing between you and the warehouse, and you never forget what the warehouse pays. The first month is a miracle. $250 a tune becomes $350 once the reviews stack up, and the reviews stack up because you post the graphs. Before and after, torque curves, no filters, no promises. Numbers don't exaggerate, and in a business built on men exaggerating, that alone is a marketing department. You answer every message inside the hour. Half your 5-star reviews mention that before they mention horsepower. You tune in driveways, in barns, in a storage unit full of boat parts, running the laptop off an inverter while a space heater fights the cold. Mobile liability insurance costs $85 a month, and you pay it before you pay yourself, because one lawsuit would erase you, and the man who taught you the word invoices would never forgive it. Month 2, the calendar goes quiet. 11 days, 0 calls. You refresh your inbox until your thumb aches. The old panic climbs back in through a window you forgot to lock. Grocery aisle math, the glove box roll, the exact weight of $611.40. At 1 a.m., you catch yourself pricing your own toolbox online, and you close the laptop and sit in the dark and say it out loud so it counts. One bad month is weather. It is not the climate. Then a message arrives from a man 400 miles away. He's seen the graphs. He wants to know if you can tune a car you will never touch. You can. Data logs by email. Revisions at night. $175 a car, minus the $49 software credit. No wrench, no drive, no state line. The first week you do 3. 2 months later you're doing 5 a night after the in-person work, and you finally understand what the flat rate book could never price. Your knowledge, working, in driveways your hands will never visit. You buy a used minivan for $4,300 to haul equipment. You finally get the joke. The quiet man from under the streetlight, the original $400 man, messages you out of nowhere. He's moving states. He sends you his overflow list like a man handing down a parish. 40 names. You work through every one of them, and you never once miss a callback because you remember exactly what it felt like to be a name on somebody's list. Then Ray calls, and his voice is wrong. The owner's retiring. The shop is closing. Everything goes to auction Saturday. The lifts, the compressors, and the animal under the tarp in the back bay. Saturday, you stand in the crowd holding the dyno envelope. $6,200 now. And a loan approval you signed with a hand that doesn't shake anymore. The equipment loan is $14,000 at 9%, and you read every line twice. The bidding stalls at 18. You take it at $19,500, and it swallows almost everything liquid you have. And it is the easiest money you have ever spent, because it isn't spending, it's repatriation. That machine taught you. Now it works for you. Ray finds you doing paperwork on the hood of the minivan. Slow kind, he says. Nothing else. It never needs to be more. You now own a 2,400-pound machine and no building to put it in. You've been broke enough to know that isn't a problem. That's a deadline. Level 6. The 2 bays. The building used to be a transmission shop and the floor still remembers. $1,850 a month. 2 bays, a roll-down door, oil stains older than you are. The first night, you lock up and stand alone in the empty dark, listening to the roof tick, and it isn't a room. It's a future with a floor drain. The dyno goes in the back bay. Bolting it down takes 2 days and costs you a knuckle. And when it runs its first pull under your own roof, you stand there letting the noise go through you like weather. Then the real education starts, because owning a shop and running one are different sports. Garage insurance, $310 a month. Business filing, $125. A used lift, $2,800. Month 3. After every bill clears, your profit is $212, and you laugh at the number because you once made more than that in a parking lot with a borrowed jack. You learn the quiet arithmetic every shop lives on. The labor keeps the lights on. The parts margin pays you. You learn deposits the hard way after a man orders $3,100 in parts and evaporates. Half down in writing forever after. You put a number on the office whiteboard, $21,000. 3 months of everything the building costs to exist. It takes 14 months to stack it, and you never touch it again. You call it the floor. Winters get thin, a compressor dies on a Friday, a customer's check bounces, and nobody panics ever because the floor is there. Most shops die of one bad month. Yours is not allowed to. And you learn the most expensive word in the building, no. A walk-in wants 640 horsepower on a stock engine and a smirk. You quote the build, it actually takes $14,000, and he wants the $4,000 version, and you decline, and he calls you scared on his way out. 8 weeks later, his car comes back on a hook, tuned by somebody hungrier, with a rod hanging out of the block like a confession. The story travels. The no costs you $4,000 in a week. Over the next year, the no's become the brand. On a Tuesday in March, the door chime rings, and it takes you a second to look down. Danny, 22 now, forearms like cable from 2 years of pushing himself everywhere. He asks if it's true you stayed that night. You say yes. He sits with that for a moment, then squares up and asks for a job, and gets the hard part out first. I can't lift a gearbox. Tuning's a sitting down job, you say. It's the best hire you will ever make. Danny takes the remote cue and devours it. Data logs, fuel trims, revision notes at midnight. Within 3 months, he's sharper at diagnosis by graph than you are, and you say so in front of a customer, on purpose, and watch him grow an inch in a wheelchair. His first full month, he closes 22 remote tunes on his own. In month 4, he's reading a data log from a stranger 3 time zones away, and stops mid-sentence. Fuel pressure sagging 2% under load. A pump about to die. Invisible to everyone on Earth except him. He emails the man to park the car. The teardown proves him right to the decimal, and the stranger's thank you letter hangs in the office, and Danny pretends he doesn't look at it every day. His mother starts bringing a covered dish by on Fridays, and never once says the thing you both remember. Some thank yous work better as casseroles. Walt dies in October, in his sleep, at 76. The one mercy in this whole story that arrives on time. His daughter comes by the shop with a torque wrench. He said you'd know why. You do. You use it on every head you torque for the rest of your life, and you paint 6 words above bay 1. Torque specs are not suggestions. When new hires ask, you say, a neighbor, and let them wonder. Level 7. The waitlist. The waitlist crosses 4 months on the same day you hire your 3rd tech, and you celebrate by doing absolutely nothing differently. You pay your techs a guaranteed 40 hours, every week, rain or rust, because you once flagged 22 hours in a 50-hour week and cashed a check for $396, and a man doesn't forget the math that almost broke him. The tool truck guys hate your parking lot. Your turnover is 0. A dealership tries to poach your best tech with an extra $3 an hour. He turns it down at the counter in front of everybody, without even calling his wife first. Later, you ask him why. He shrugs. Nobody's yelled at me in 2 years, he says. You put that sentence in the employee handbook. It's the entire culture section. A dyno session is $850 now, and people wait anyway. You raise prices the way Ray taught you to diagnose. Slowly, testing, watching the gauges. That winter, you and the crew build a shop car the old way. Junkyard block, public parts list, every receipt published. $11,600 all in, less than half of what the internet insists a 9-second car costs, which is exactly the point. On a sanctioned Friday night, with a roll cage and an ambulance on standby, it runs a 9.41 at 147, and a 31-second clip of the pull travels farther than you ever have. The phone stops ringing and starts swarming, so you stop selling only hours. In Bay 2, a bench appears, and on the bench, a harness. Plug and play, flex fuel, $41 in parts, $219 shipped, built in batches by a kid who's good with his hands, 340 units a month. For the first time in your life, money arrives while you're asleep, and it never entirely stops feeling like a trick. Then a kid comes in, 19 maybe, cash folded in an envelope, eyes flicking to his phone. He wants $700 at the wheels. Street tires, no cage. He mentions a list. The list never died. Lists don't. You turn down $9,400 and offer to prep the car for the strip instead. Entries $20 on Fridays. He looks at you the way you once looked at slow men and leaves. For a month, you check the tow yard photos for silver. You never find out. That's the lesson Level 7 keeps reteaching. You can't save them. You can only refuse to hold the stopwatch. And then, on a slow Saturday, a pickup pulls in dragging a trailer, and on the trailer, orange under 15 years of garage dust, sits the Supra. Tommy's thinner, grayer, prouder than his wallet, which is why he stands there holding his hat instead of asking. He can't touch waitlist prices, and you both know it. You close the shop the next 4 Sundays. You, Tommy, and Danny at the bench calling out numbers. 15 years of almost, and then one afternoon, the straight six clears its throat for the first time since jack stands were supposed to be temporary, and settles into an idle smooth as poured oil. Tommy doesn't say anything for a long time. Neither do you. The invoice reads $1. He pays it with a bill from his wallet, and you frame it over the register, and when customers ask, Danny tells them the truth. That's the most expensive dollar in the building. In the spring, 2 men in gray quarter zips fly in from a national parts distributor, tour the shop with soft handshakes, and ask what it would take for you to hand them the keys. You say a number meant to end the meeting. Nobody flinches. Level 8. The Sunday car. The negotiation takes 3 months in a conference room you never feel dressed for. $5.1 million. The brand, the harness line, the tune library, the wait list, the name on the sign. Your conditions go in before the price does. The first dyno stays yours. The Civic was never on the table. In Danny's department, salary and title are locked for 5 years in writing. The lawyers thought that clause was sentiment until you made them read it back twice. The wire lands on a Tuesday while you're doing your own oil change, which is exactly where you'd want to be standing. You finish the job, you torque the drain plug to spec. Obviously, what follows is the strangest season of your life, the one where nothing is broken. The money sits in boring investments chosen on purpose by a boring advisor chosen on purpose. The house you buy is ordinary, 3 bedrooms, quiet street, nothing worth photographing, except the garage, which is not ordinary at all, and which is the only room anyone ever gets a tour of. You still count change twice. You still know a head gasket set runs $104 now. You checked. D retired to a lake. His nephew runs the counter and still lets an old habit walk the rows 20 minutes before open, because some rules outlive the men who made them. Once a month, Ray sends a photo of a fish. No caption. You reply with a photo of the dyno. Neither of you has ever explained this to anyone. The new owners tried once to move Danny to a regional office with a better title. He declined from a position of contractual strength. You taught him that word. Every Friday night, the drag strip across the county runs a street legal program where the first 50 entries are mysteriously already paid, helmets included. $1,400 a week wired from a company with a deliberately boring name. The track manager knows. He's paid in part to not know. And the light pole on Route 9 hasn't worn new flowers in 4 years. You check every spring. It's the only report card you've ever cared about. The Civic is still yours. Same faded paint, because the paint is the story. Everything underneath is better than new. On Sunday mornings, you drive it. Right lane, 70, windows down, no destination. Out of a habit older than the money. And on one of those Sundays, on the shoulder of the interstate, you see it. Hazards. Hood up. White smoke thinning in the morning air. A man in his 20s with a phone pressed to his ear, doing the kind of listening that ages a face. There's a high-vis vest on his passenger seat and a warehouse badge clipped to it. You know the quote he's hearing before he hangs up. You could recite it. You pull over. His numbers spill out of him like they've been waiting. $2,300 from the shop. $640 in the bank. A job across town he cannot lose. Rent in 12 days. He says the car is dead. He says today is the worst day of his life. He thinks the smoke means it's over. You know it means it's starting. You open the trunk of the Civic. Inside, a folding lawn chair you have never once explained, and a torque wrench older than both of you. It has outlived 2 owners. It isn't done. You hand it to him, and he looks at you like you're crazy. They always do, right up until the key turns. You do it, you say, unfolding the chair. I'll watch.